I can't recall the day your dream became my life. I've lived an eternity with you by my side. You by my side. Like the sun and the moon, I've seen that your light reflects mine. And riding together we have conquered the skies. But for so long I failed to see the truth as I searched for a fantasy that lived within you. Said, how did you know that you'd be my angel?
Hello, I'm Schulz from Serenely Speaking, and this is the Arisen Strength podcast. Folks, we do this show on Sunday nights because we feel there are far too many dreams, talents, and capabilities that are being suppressed for whatever reason. Whether it be injury, illness, or life experiences, these situations have a way of finding us being robbed of what it is that makes us special and unique in this world, our passions. Here at Arisen Strength, we encourage people to pursue their passions in spite of the challenges that they face. Now, how we do that is with our three-pillar concept. Number one, we support. Number two, we empower. And after all that work, number three, we have the right to celebrate. Folks, that's the Arisen Strength concept. Our goal is to help bring passions of life back to you again. Tonight, we're going to discuss episode 19, How It Works in Reality. Now, tonight's episode is going to be a little bit different. You see, Wayne and I, we don't have any script in front of us. We're not even going to do any type of structure that we normally would do on our show. You see, Wayne and I have had a number of different things happen over this past month. Anywhere from being laid off from work to having a very dear friend pass away, or learning of another dear friend or loved one that was being affected by severe illness, such as, in this case, cancer, as well as a number of other things that we've both gone through. We decided that this would be a great time to be able to show the audience how it is that Arisen Strength can really work. And that we do utilize these exact same concepts that we bring you, the audience, on an everyday basis. We use things such as support, empower, as well as celebration. We also utilize those foundation points of Arisen Strength, which are self-esteem, or the power of turning the thought, and of course, the freedom of acceptance. Tonight's episode is going to be pretty emotional, but it's something that I think that is going to be able to help out some people that are out there to be able to understand Arisen Strength a little bit better, and I'm looking forward to it. So we have our three pillars of Arisen Strength, one being support, two being empower, and after all that work that we do, we have the right to celebrate. So we definitely had to utilize all three of those over this past month and a half. And so why don't you start us off with support?
Yeah, one of the main supports that I use is my ex-wife. We were married about 23 years, and we just recently would have been our 30th wedding anniversary. So this is somebody I've known for a long time. She knows a lot about me. I know a lot about her. And I'm able to use her as a support because for me, at least, utilizing supports requires strong faith. I have to trust the other person who's supporting me, because when I'm reaching out and using supports, it's typically when I'm in trouble, I'm in need. I have something that and especially the way I use supports is I don't ask for help until the very last minute, and I need to work on that and start asking for help earlier. Mm-hmm. But because I know I do ask for help when I'm in a lot of trouble, I have to have a lot of faith that the supports I'm reaching out to are actually making suggestions in my best interest, are helping me get my needs met. Because a lot of times they suggest things that I'm against. I mean, there are things that if I had thought of them or had wanted to do them, I would have done them myself.
Yeah.
So I'm resisting them. So for me, utilizing supports very much is about faith in the person or institution that I'm reaching out to for that support.
Well, I mean, for me, it kind of brings up one of our foundations of Arisen Strength, and that is the freedom of acceptance. Because there's a lot of acceptance when it comes to having your supports. This all started out with, our good friend passing away. And the very first thing that I thought of was to get to you, to basically to be able to talk to you, because I have that trust in you in order to be able to discuss those types of things. And so we did. We talked it out quite a bit. We let out some emotions that we had going on inside. And if I wasn't able to do that, I'm not sure who I would have gone with, to be honest with you, to be able to get that out of me, to be able to release myself from what was festering on the inside, because there was a whole lot that was going on. And then I lost my job. It was what, like the day after, 2 days after?
Yeah, actually, as I recall, what happened was, it was, I found out about Eric passing
On Monday, right?
on a Monday.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if I had mentioned it to you right after I heard it, but it was the very next day, the Tuesday morning, when you went to work and found out about the layoffs at work, and then with the old first in, last in, first out. Several people were let go as part of the layoff, and you were actually the last person hired, so you were definitely on the top of the list for that. And I remember that happening real early in the morning, because by the time I was sort of up and about, you'd already gone and come back.
Yep.
Your day was, and I was on my way for therapy that morning, and I really didn't have time to sort of track you down, to talk about what was going on or how I was feeling, and that weighed. And I felt lucky for myself, because I was on my way to therapy, treatment. I have a one-on-one that I meet with a therapist every 2 weeks, and so that happened to be the day. But it was But yeah, it was happening it was like boom, boom, right then.
Yeah, it was a 1-2. There was no doubt, and so I had to utilize my own supports, and you talk about therapy and so forth. I have a great relationship with my therapist, my doctors, I called and left a message, or actually no, I texted, and I said, listen, if I don't have a therapy session, this week, I need one. And it wasn't, I wasn't fooling around, it was one of those things is where I knew that what was going on the outside of me, also on the inside of me, could have been very detrimental to me. And so I needed to be able to get a hold of that situation as quickly as possible, to be able to use all the supports that I could. You talk about your ex-wife, Linda.
Mm-hmm.
I pretty much compartmentalize my friends and people who I deal with when it comes to these situations. Some people are good being supporters. Some people are good listeners. Some people are good at being just funny and having a good time. And, but sometimes they can't do all three or all of what it is that you need. So, there are certain ones that I do get in touch with that are more sensitive to what it is that I'm thinking and feeling. And that's what I went and talked to. And then we had, our third thing, what was going on, which was you had your ex.
Oh yeah, well, we had my at the same time I mentioned that my ex-wife and I had what would have been our 30th wedding anniversary. The day after that, which was the very next week, this is all happening. This was on a Tuesday morning. She called me, and she had battles with cancer twice in the last 13 years ago. Then it came back 6 years after that, and then now 7 years after that, it had come back again. And so it was really kind of my chance to be a support for her, and to offer some of the some of it's like canned advice, but it's advice that I need to hear from myself, and I repeating it to her. Then I need to go back and make sure that I'm really utilizing this stuff myself. But one of the main ones is she found out on Tuesday morning that her blood levels were really low. She just had a blood test, and you're able to go online. You can look at your blood levels online before you meet the doctor. And she saw her levels were real low. She knows her own history. She pretty much diagnosed herself, my cancer has come back. And then she has to wait till Thursday to see the doctor. So part of my support there was there's nothing you can do about it between now and Thursday now. You've seen the blood levels. Okay, you know, there's nothing you're going to do to change it between now and then. You have to try and distract. You have to try and back burner this. You know, back burner is a great thing that you don't want to confuse it with avoidance. Right. And I thought of this when you were talking about contacting your therapist. You know, as soon as we found out about Eric, right away, take care of that. Yeah. Do I have the appointment? Because then once I have the appointment, then now I can not worry about that piece, right? I can sort of back burner some things rather than, struggle with the fact that, oh, what do I do? Okay, I've got the therapy appointment. Now I can do other things. I'm free. I got a lot of freedom because I've sort of made some decisions, and now I've back burnered this. And back burner, and that's what I want to say, is not avoidance. Sometimes we confuse them. I confuse them. I'll back burner things.
Yeah.
And the idea of putting something on the back burner is
procrastination sets in.
Is it's there, yeah. and you're going to get back to it. It's not that you put it there because it's out of sight, out of mind. Right. And that's in the past. That's what I've typically done is I've avoided, and I've told myself that I'm just back burner stuff. It's like, oh, I can't do anything about it right now, so let me just put it on the back burner. And I think, honestly, I probably knew full well that I was never going to look at that again. It was, I'm just telling myself that it's, back burner, but I'm really just avoiding. And so now having to train myself to say, okay, if I'm going to back burner something I need to know what I'm doing with it. I have to know where it is. And then I can, at least for a little while, distract. I can go on to something else. I don't have to be paralyzed by, worrying about it because... there are times when you can't do anything about it. You set up your supports, you use your supports, but there's these times where it's time to watch a movie. It's time to take a nap if you have to. Right. It's time to just get out, do something, smile, laugh. You're gonna if you plan this, you will pick up what you need to pick up.
And part of the reason why we bring this up is also because of what it means to Arisen Strength. Arisen Strength means means that we acknowledge that there's an effect there, right? Yeah. So whether anybody else, whether it be family, friends, co-workers, whatever the case, if they don't necessarily agree that there's an effect, I don't care. What I care about is that the person who's feeling affected is affected. Yeah. And therefore we're there to support that and acknowledge that and not judge it by any means. And so one of the things that kind of happened with us is that we all of a sudden realized that we, as a show, Arisen Strength, we were really running on the edge, and we realized that we could get out a show every week. We could get out 2 shows every week. Both the Sunday show and the Thursday recap show, we could get it out every week as long as everything didn't go wrong. As long as everything went 100% right. As far as our time is allowed, we could get it out. And when we realized that we had this avalanche of things that were going on, we realized that we didn't have that freedom of not being able to have things go our way 100%.
Yeah, and that's where all the foundations of Arisen Strength are really important. The self-esteem, to be able to make these choices about cutting back a schedule without judging yourself for saying, oh, I'm a failure. I'm supposed to be able to do this. I should be able to do it this way, and I'm feeling bad about myself because I really can't put the time and effort in that I want to put in, and so I have to do it less often, or I have to stretch it, give myself more time to do it. But it takes a certain amount of self-esteem to be able to do that. The acceptance piece, I have to accept that I don't have the time to do this. So even if I don't have the self-esteem to be able to allow to make me feel good about it, I have to accept that I can't do it anyway.
Right.
So I have that going on, and then you have to turn the thought, right? They have to say, okay, I can't do the show every week the way we've been doing it, and still give myself that room. So I have to do something different. I have to think about doing the show differently, and so that's lengthening the schedule. So all three of the foundations that are working together, of the self-esteem, of the turning the thought, the acceptance, they work together so that I can then utilize my supports, which include having a conversation with you, right, that hey Shane, this is really what I think I need. This is what I have to do really for this show to contribute to the show at the level that I want to contribute. This is kind of what I'm putting out here, and we had that long conversation about that.
And from the putting the show aside, I realized that what was going on, exteriorly, I realized that it was affecting us. It wasn't affecting us as friends or anything in that sense, but it was affecting us as in our sleep. It was affecting us in our mood. It was affecting in our exhaustion. I mean, it was the day that we came to realize that we were in trouble when it came to putting the show out. You realized it for sure. And when I saw your face and it said, I can't do this, then it was like, well, now what do we do type of thing. And to be honest with you, like you had mentioned, self-esteem. I'm a self-loather. I've been a self-loather since I've been very young. So when I can't produce something that I had said that I was going to, I do feel like a failure. I do feel like something didn't go right. So that's something that I need to get a hold of real quick. And, and I did. I if you remember right, I said when you told me we weren't going to be able to get it done, I said, let me take about 10, 15 minutes. And
I think it was an important first step too. When these emotional situations come up, especially when now there's decisions that have to be made. Taking that moment that says, stop. I'm gonna hold on to this for a second while I try and figure out what the best or what a very good next move is, rather than just sort of start making lots and lots of decisions in the moment. Take even just 10 or 15 minutes, letting yourself know that you have 10 or 15 minutes before you have to do anything. Was really, I think it calmed you and centered you really well. But you left, and what happened?
Yeah, I went back into my little room, which I use as a studio for a lot of individual stuff that I do. I prayed on it. For one thing, I believe in a higher power. My higher power is God and His Son, Jesus Christ. I prayed on it. I also called some supports. I called somebody who I think is, has a lot of wisdom, but he knows nothing about the show. He knows I do a show, but he doesn't watch it or anything in that sense. He's too busy doing the things that he does. But it was something as to where I could just talk about something else and focus a little bit. But I had already made my decision. It was just a matter of what it is that I was going to do. And I came back to you and I said, all right, we're shutting it down. Now, what I did when I shut it down we could have just shut it down for that one show. But I decided to shut it down for the entire week. And the reason why I wanted to do that was because I wanted us to be able to get healthy. I wanted us to be able to get right in the mind. And I wanted us to be able to get even better than where it was that we were already at.
So, yeah, we talk about using supports here. We definitely we reach out and we use our supports. And the whole time interweave with those foundations of self-esteem, turning the thought, and acceptance.
And the freedom of acceptance, absolutely. So we talked about support, and now we're going to talk about number 2, which is empower, which is one of my favorites. So why don't you go ahead and talk about empower for the beginning here?
Yeah, when I think of empower, first of all, I think of is this part that after I've used my supports, there is one small part of empowerment where you have to empower yourself to use your supports, but you use your supports to. I use my supports to steady myself, get my feet sort of planted on the ground, It's like somebody spotting me at the gym, where I can start making some choices. Usually, listening to what my supports say, and making some choices, making some decisions, taking some actions, where I'm actually getting myself out of the hole that I may have dug myself. A lot of times I talk about digging a hole, and when I use my own thinking,
Going faster.
I dig faster. Right, when I notice I'm in a hole, dig faster, and that's not utilizing my supports. So utilizing my supports now would be stopping, maybe hollering up, "Hey, I'm in a hole." They lower a ladder perhaps. And then I have to actually start doing something here. So I got to start climbing out myself. They could, my supports can help me. They can, they can provide the ladder, but I actually have to start doing this myself. So, for me, going to my therapy session is actually getting out of the house and doing that. I have a history. It's been many years since I had this full isolation. I didn't go outside for a year and a half. Stayed in my room, which and I mean I did not go out of my room.
For how long?
A year and a half, and then since then I've also had periods of times where maybe a day or two, or I'm a lot more comfortable sort of in my space where I have my stuff around. I don't want I don't want to have a lot of stuff, but I like to be around my stuff. I like to be able to close my door. I like to. There's a certain amount of sort of comfort, safety, whatever it is, but I also know that I need to be around people, so I have to like living with roommates really helps me, because it's I can't isolate for too much without people checking on me and saying, hey, making sure that are you really gonna go outside, or are you gonna, at least are you awake, or the little things like that. But getting up, getting out, getting to my appointment, very, very empowering. Doing that, talking to you about lengthening the schedule, so being assertive, right?
Yeah.
That's very empowering. It feels like hey, I'm really stuck in this show. My perception of it, and I'm just like go, 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 go. I don't have any time to take a breath, and when there's a little bump in the road, the whole thing crashes. There's not, you can't even be salvaged.
Welcome to my life.
And
that's what it's been.
But by sort of working up to like, all right, I'm gonna have to have this conversation with Shane for my own sanity. It was very empowering. Actually, I felt good. It's like, wow, was able to get off my chest what I need to do, and you were very receptive to it. That's another part of it that helps. It was like, it made me feel good. I'm glad I said something. So that's kind of my little bit of rant on empowerment.
When it came to the passing of our good friend Eric, hard to empower yourself. Really hard. Yeah. Really hard. Because you constantly, we were going through the memory. We were in grief. We were grieving.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to find yourself empowering yourself through grieving. But what I did is I kind of distracted myself. I empowered myself to be able to do some other things outside of constantly thinking about what was going on. And it wasn't to take away from, the fact that, I actually love this guy. Eric was a great person. Somebody who impacted my life, obviously. Yeah. And, so it wasn't to take away from him, but the fact is that I can't do anything for him, right? I can pray, and pray that he's in the right spot and he's doing well. In which case I'm fully believing that that's the case. But at the same time, it's like I need to worry about me here, and that's where our foundation of turning the thought, the power of turning the thought, allowed me to go ahead and then go and do something else and distract myself. And it wasn't the show, It was simply going to motivational videos. It was going to watching a comedy. Of all people, I watched Robin Williams. One of the best comics that have in the history of comics, and one of my favorite actors. Even he wasn't just that he was in comedy. He was one of my favorite actors. And I just I did that, and it allowed me to kind of let the hours go by a little bit, but in a controlled way, in my controlled way. When we talk about the show, when you came to me and told me that, look, I can't really give it everything that I've got right now, I didn't really know what to do, to be honest with you. I knew that I wasn't going to push you, but at the same time, I also knew that we had responsibility for the show. So I had to kind of like balance that out. And I asked you for that, for that 15 minutes so that I could center myself, like you said, to be able to make the decision that I made. And that decision allowed us to be able to do something differently. It allowed us to be able to, now, yes, okay, we are not going to do a live show every week. Okay, so what can we do to improve the product and not do a live show every week? And so that's what we came about, is like, look, we can put more graphics in it, we can edit it, we can do, we found the benefits of our empowerment more than the detractions or the the takeaways from what we would have had to accept, and I think that was a big thing for us.
Yeah, I think a big part of that empowerment is that like talk about kick the can't.
Kick the can, baby.
You have to accept what you can't do. You have to accept your limitations, whatever they happen to be. And then you have to put those aside and focus on what you can do.
Right.
We look at what we can't do and say, okay, we pretty much decided, or I had said that, I really can't do this show on a weekly basis with the recap and a new show and put the, effort in that I want to put in. And so I had to accept that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then I have to put that aside, and I can't be constantly going, I can't. I have to now switch that to, what can I do? What can I do? Okay, here's what I can do. I can, I can do filming on this many days. I can do editing on this many days. I can do, be in the chat room on these days for sure. Focus on the things that I can do. And then because of that, now I feel empowered, because now I'm actually making choices and doing things that are actually propelling me in a direction, it's not that feeling of being stuck, being sunk, and certainly not being in a hole and digging faster.
Right.
It was, but it's the foundations are supporting the pillars. The pillar for empowerment is, again, being supported by our foundations of self-esteem. Nothing helps self-esteem like empowerment. That has it right there. There's feedback between the two of those. But when you start feeling empowered, man, you can feel that self-esteem. But you have to have that acceptance and that turning the thought to accept your situation. You got to turn the thought to be open to new suggestions, and then you got to follow that new path. Follow those. It's just the same path, really. You're just, maybe the scenery looks a little different. Maybe it's a slightly different direction, but we are on the same path.
Well, that's like when I lost my job. That was discouraging, to say the least. It was a little bit embarrassing, because it wasn't because of my performance. It wasn't because I did anything wrong. It was because it was, a monetary thing for the company, and they let go of 8 people, and I was the last new hire, so I was doomed from the beginning. But when I left the office, I wasn't in a huff. I wasn't in anything like that. Because I knew that I could go one of two ways here. I could really implode, and I could really say, go into that self-loathing part of me, or I can look at what type of opportunity is available for me now that I'm not working, a full-time job. So I went to the bus line, and I actually let one of the buses go by. And because I was sitting there and I was thinking of what it is that I wanted to do, and I was in the process of utilizing the power of turning the thought, because as I was doing that, I came to realize, hey, in the back of our minds, you and I both, what would my career be like if I put 24/7 into it, as opposed to, a full-time job, plus speaking, plus doing this, plus doing that. And, what if I put all my efforts into just my career in regards to Arisen Strength and Serenely Speaking, And, it kept me out of the hole. It didn't rise me above by no means.
Right.
It just had me on the edge of the hole, keeping me from falling in.
Well, as anybody might be able to imagine, you were working this full-time job, and you were using that really a couple different ways, but it was really supporting this show.
Yeah.
But one, it kind of keeps you up and out and motivated, and you're able to direct a lot of energy to the show when you had the time to do it.
Yeah.
And so the job itself was really kind of helping in that sense. I mean, that's part of turning the thought is using that fact that I'm working this full-time job, and I'm going to use the energy of this full-time job actually to help me with the Arisen Strength and Serenely Speaking concept. And when you lose the job, there's that risk where you could lose it all.
Right.
Like, what's the use of anything then? What is the purpose?
Right.
And that is a risk that definite real possibility. We're turning the thought now, as I like to say, the crisis becomes challenge, becomes an opportunity. Is, hey, I'm going to take this opportunity that while I have the time right now, I'm just going to dump more time and effort into Arisen Strength. And it's a little bit like there's a investment strategy. When the stock goes down, you're heavily invested in a stock, and the stock goes down.
Yeah.
Buy more.
Right.
The price is low now.
Yep.
And it's a little bit like that. It's like, okay, here's an opportunity to invest more.
Yep.
So I'm going to take that opportunity. I'm going to invest more. And we have been doing that. We've been experimenting a lot with some things that people are going to start seeing in the episodes that have been coming up.
Yep.
In the past, they've seen a couple of interviews. We're going to start seeing more interviews. Yep. And we're going to try and figure out ways to sort of interweave those interviews into the shows that we do. And it's a learning process.
And for the things that we have in the future that we plan on doing, of which we haven't announced yet. So I mean, we've got a lot of things that we plan on doing. Another thing that I mentioned that I have a little studio in the back of the house as to where I do individual videos. I did a number of individual videos, not only just to put them out there, but it was therapeutic to me, right? And at the same time, if it's therapeutic to me, then that means it can help somebody else that's out there that's dealing with something similar. And it's like some of those videos that I put out there within a day have 700 different views. So I mean, it's one of those things as to where it's like utilizing the situation, but not letting the situation run me. I'm running with the situation.
Yeah, I like those little videos that you do too. I mean, that's another empowerment, right? Because making some choices and making some decisions. But there's almost like a three-pronged benefit that I can think of just off the top of my head of doing these. One, like you mentioned, this is therapeutic, for yourself to do these things. And you're committing thoughts and words to video, right, and then you're sharing them with somebody else. That's a certain level of commitment to do that. You can't. It's very hard to distort your thinking when you're doing that.
Right.
Because people are seeing, and they're either going to call you on it, or you're going to have to say, well, that must be right, because that's, wow. So there's definitely a benefit for you directly. Then there's lots of good information in there. So people who are struggling in their own lives can directly use those videos and apply them to their lives. There's this, there's lots of really good information. But then there's this other one. It's a little bit more subtle, but it's the watching you do it. Watching you do these videos and seeing how they're benefiting you, that can be a message to other people that, hey, you can figure out what's going on in your life and what can you do in your life to improve your life. I'm making these videos and they're helping me, and that's like a message in itself to other people that, even if you're not getting from my videos because it doesn't apply to you for whatever reason, and maybe you don't want to make videos, but you can do something to empower yourself to change your own situation.
Whether it be writing, maybe you want to write. Maybe you do a journal. Maybe you do a book. Maybe you might be, to the point as to where you want to do a book. There's a number of ways of empowering yourself to be able to make the life better than what it was the day before and the day before that. And that's really what it's about. You can see why empowerment is definitely my favorite. There's no doubt about it. But what comes close to empowerment is celebration. And that's our number 3 pillar of Arisen Strength. After all that work, we have the right to celebrate.
Yeah, celebration can mean different things to different people. And one of the things I like to think of celebration is taking that moment to pause and sort of say to myself, I did that, whatever it happened to be. As a recovering addict, I deal with one day at a time. And every morning I make a morning commitment to not drink today. So I am not going to drink today. And then that day, if I don't drink and I can go to bed and I can wake up the next morning, that's a moment of celebration. I can wake up the next day and say, you know what? I made a commitment not to drink yesterday, and I didn't drink yesterday. Yep. And so far, that's been working for me. I have 1,606 days now.
Awesome.
And it gives me a moment every morning to sort of recognize some accomplishment that I've made, and it can be as small as not drinking for one day, mm-hmm. There seems to be a bigger accomplishment when you start adding them all up. And I have to sort of guard myself from getting too wrapped up in that.
Complacent.
Yeah, because then the clean time becomes a burden. Because then you start worrying about, I've got 1,600 days, and now if I mess it up, then I lose all 6. And I said, no, I'm going to one day at a time, focus on the day, and I'm going to not drink today, and then tomorrow I'll have myself another little celebration for not drinking today.
And you've been doing awesome with it, you know.
Yeah.
Another thing that I want to make clear with celebration is that, like you say, it's to reinforce what the progress that you're making. And another word that would be very common to that is reward or ritual. Tony Robbins always talks about rituals, but when I think about it, it's like a reward. I used to do goals in my life as to where it would be from point A to point B. And they would be pretty lofty, but I would be able to achieve them, right? But for whatever reason, and again, it's just like what the show was, everything had to be going 100% in order for me to be able to achieve them. And I wouldn't be able to have any speed bumps or any hurdles of any kind, so, and what would happen is that I would sit there and I'd be going from point A, going towards point B, and just about getting to point B, and then I hit a speed bump. And next thing you know, I don't reach point B. And what would happen is that I would feel like I failed. I would feel as if like I wasn't good enough, or whatever it is that you want to relate to it. So what I've learned to do is just like I compartmentalize, the people who I'm around, I deconstruct what it is that goal it takes, and the steps that it takes in order to get to that goal. And so it's like, instead of from point A to point B, now it's A, B, C, D to get to E, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the exact same goal, but it has steps into it. And after each step that I take, I would reward myself. One thing that I used to do, my parents, I like clothes. I always did. It's just one of my things. But my parents think that I spent, oh my God, unbelievable amount of money on clothes, which I did. But at the same time, a lot of it was rewards. If I sat there and I did a good job in my view, for something throughout the week, I'd go out and buy myself a shirt. Whether it be a golf shirt or a dress shirt, whatever the case may be. That's why I got about 150 different shirts in my closet. But it was a reward. And the same, you can do it. Maybe you can put some money into your bank account. Maybe you get a gift account and you put it into your bank account. And if you happen to make that reward, hey, go ahead and put that money into your account so that you can utilize it at another time. Another thing that you don't want to take it. The opposite is that there are stakes that are involved into goals too. If you don't hold yourself accountable to that goal, well, then you can fall back and you can take a step backwards. Sometimes you have to say, hey, look, I'm going to make this a little bit painful for myself not to make that goal, right? And so go ahead and I'll say, all right, well, I'll give $5 every time that I don't accomplish this goal. I'll give $5 to Wayne. Well, I'm not going to give $5 to Wayne too many times. I can tell you that. So that's going to hold me accountable, right? Can I borrow $5? No. But anyways, so we got off a little bit on track, but the thing is that it's a reward. It's something that shows and that I value myself for what it is that I created for myself to accomplish. One of the things that I've been doing is I've been playing golf, quite a bit. I go out on Sundays. It's like I work very hard throughout the week, and it's like we get to the point as to when it was a live show, I needed a break before that show, right? And but now that we're not doing a live show, I still work probably harder than what I did when we did a live show, and therefore I reward myself, to be able to go out and do that, and it allows me to just be me for a little bit, and that's okay. And you know what? It's necessary. It's not just that it's okay. It's necessary for you to reward yourself, for you to reinforce your value for what it is that you accomplish.
Yeah, and the rewards can be very, very small celebrations, but they can be meaningful. I was thinking, I told you the story about the I think it was Febreze. With their advertising campaign, they reworked their advertising campaign to market their product not as a disinfectant for make your room smell good, but they started running the ads so that after you've cleaned your house, you clean the kitchen, you clean the living room, you take this spray stuff and you just give it a little squirt, and then you smell the cleanliness.
Yep.
And what you're doing is you're reminding yourself that you did a good job cleaning. And when they did that, they doubled their sales. They literally doubled their sales.
Isn't that amazing?
By changing it to a reward. And a way you could apply this sort of concept in your own life is a lot of people have trouble exercising and maintaining an exercise schedule. Well, what you can do is turn your shower into a reward. Get some sort of body lotion or conditioner or shampoo that you really do love.
Yep.
And reward yourself after you work out with the shower. If you like a hot shower, if you like however you like your shower, but take that time and make the shower the reward after the workout. And so then when you work out, you take the shower. Now the shower is the reward for having worked out.
Yeah, and focus on the reward.
Focus on the reward.
Folks, if you want to have a great relationship with somebody, focus on the reward with them. You know what I mean? Watch what happens. That makes a big difference in a relationship where two people are acknowledging an accomplishment together. That's just a wonderful thing. And another thing is that with it being a ritual and everything, the smallest thing could be like ice cream. You can have like a cup of ice cream in order to just reinforce that, because it and like I think you had mentioned regards to climbing a mountain, putting in a peg for you.
Yeah, you back to the mountain climber. You gave your example of trying to reach a lofty goal, and as long as there's no mistakes and no bumps in the road, you can and you happen to make it all the way to the end. But if you don't, you can get short and something happens, and especially being a self-loather, you might be doing some self-sabotage and not really worrying about it, not knowing about it, and then you fall all the way off. So imagine a mountain climber free climbing, right? Any small mistake, they're done for.
Yep.
But if you climb up with your little spikes and your little rope, and every once in a while, hey, this is a pretty good place. I got a good view here. Let me put a little spike in, dun 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 dun, wrap the rope around, and then I continue my journey. Now I don't have to climb all the way to the top mistake-free, and if something happens, even at the last second, it's not a complete failure. I only fall back really to the last celebration. If I'm celebrating along the way, and I'm actually marking things that I've done, and then I start running to a roadblock, what ends up happening is I might just have to redo that last step over again. I say, you know what, I've fallen back a little bit, but I haven't fallen all the way back. I've got a minor setback. For doing this show, we sat down and we spent a few hours writing down kind of what goes on and what goes into making the show. Sure. And we gave about 9 or 10 points along the way of different things that we have to do to get the show on the air. And per episode. And so we were able to write them all down on the calendar, and we got a schedule. And then we can kind of look along, and then we can just focus on one step at a time. And then when it's done, we can say, we did this. And it's things like filming. Then there's reviewing the footage. And then there's adding the graphics the first time, doing some rough editing. Then there's reviewing the rough edit.
Yeah.
Then there's actually doing a final edit and getting it polished. And then there's getting it upload. There's these little steps. But by writing them down and knowing what the different steps are, we know where we are in the process. We know what we have to focus on. And when we finish a little segment, is a sigh of relief because we're that much closer to our goal. It's not an all or nothing thing. We know exactly what we have to do to finish. We know exactly what we've done. We've ritualized it. When you talk about paying attention to the celebration,
Yep.
I mean that's what ritualizes it, right? You're paying attention. If it's an ice cream, one way you can pay attention is pick a brand and a flavor of ice cream maybe and say, when I do this, I'm going to have this brand and this flavor, and that reinforces the ritual of it because when it's not just ice cream, but it's like, ooh, when I have, for me, might be Ben and Jerry's Chunky Monkey, and that this is a special occasion because I've made it special,
and rituals are very powerful. I mean, look at when we were in the chat room in Chatsy. We didn't have a show, but we decided to stay in there for a little bit, and we had some fun with the people that showed up, and we did a music request theme thing, and it's like music is very ritual, and you could tell that the people who were requesting these songs, they were very attached to that song for whatever reason, and what we did in order to celebrate the fact, hey, number one, we said, okay, we can't accomplish doing a show each week. But what we can do every other week, we can put on a show that we've never put on before and make it about 10 times better. Well, what did we do? We got a pizza. You know what I mean? We shared a pizza together.
Yeah.
And it's like that's one of those things as to where I won't forget. You know what I mean? We didn't just sit there for a few minutes. We sat there for 3-4 hours, getting this schedule down to the way that we wanted to do it, and then we celebrated it with a pizza together. Yeah. And so, and these things. See, folks, we do this on a daily basis, and so what we're bringing to you, the audience, is what it is that we know works for us, and it's got to work for somebody else that's out there, in their own way.
Yeah, so we stand on the foundations of Arisen Strength, which are the self-esteem, the acceptance, the turning the thought, and we use those to support the pillars of support empower, and celebrate. And if we're making sure that we're taking care of those things, and this part of it is just a lot of it you might be doing in your life, but because you haven't recognized that that's what you're doing, then you don't get the sort of the benefit of doing it. You don't feel that celebration part. I mean, that's a big part of the celebration. But by giving something a name,
don't take it for granted.
By labeling your activities and then recognizing what you've done.
Yep.
You without even really doing anything extra or more, you can start feeling good about yourself because you're recognizing the things that you're already doing. You're probably doing lots of great things in your life that you're not recognizing. Taking that time out to recognize what you're doing in your life right now, that can be enough of a boost, perhaps, to go on and do better in more things that lead to more celebration.
You start recognizing the accomplishments that you do on an everyday basis, and I promise you'll start finding the amazing part of life. And that's what this is all about. So you know what? That's going to be our show for tonight. As you can see, both Wayne and I, we utilize the pillars and the foundations of Arisen Strength. We utilize support and power and celebration, along with self-esteem, the power of turning the thought, and of course, the freedom of acceptance. So hopefully you can utilize them in order to make your day a little bit better than what it was the day before and the day before that. So, how about things coming up?
We got the big episode for Arisen Strength, one that we've been putting a lot of effort into, is the Lyme disease.
Lyme disease.
That's coming up. That's going to be August 30th.
August 30th. Yeah.
And we got a couple of special guests for that.
Yeah. I want to say, we have some great interviews. I've got an interview with Terry from World Lyme Day. I really want to take time and do a shout out to World Lyme Day. Both Rebecca and Terry have been wonderful in giving us some information, some graphics and so forth, as well as being able to tell us what it's like to live with Lyme disease on a day-to-day basis. And those interviews are going to be really great. We got one that's from a girl named Michelle. We've got Terry. And I think we've also got Angela, I think. Yeah. And, so I think that it's going to be something that's going to be looked forward to. What else? Chatsy.
Join us in Chatsy. Like I said, we have the new episodes. We don't have the new episodes that come out every week. We come out every other week. It's the Sundays and Thursdays every other week. But we're in there every week, at least Sundays and Thursdays. I hope I'm not saying Monday. Sundays and Thursdays. Sunday and Thursdays. So between 7 and 8, we're there by 8 o'clock, and then we stay loose till 9. But it could be 7 to 10. But the chat room is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As you get to meet the other people who come in and join the chat, you guys can free to use the chat room anytime. We have a premium chat room. There's no ads in it. There's it's a Chatsy product. You can use it for mobile apps. m.chatsy.com. Yep. If you're just using your desktop or laptop browser, it's www.chatsy.com. The room is Arisen Strength. So it's chatsy.com/Arisen Strength. But when it's not a show night, what's going on in there then?
Hey, we had a great time the last time. It was to where everybody that joined us, not only did we get to chat with them and meet and greet, we also, had some fun. We played some, we had people request different types of music. Different songs that they liked, and Wayne, the disc jockey, would go out and he'd get the actual YouTube video and embed it into the Chatsy room, and everybody could listen to the same song if they wanted to and chat at the same time. It was a real good time. We had quite a few people stop by and say hi, and we have plenty of room for more people to stop by. It really is just to get the idea. Get people acquainted with the Arisen Strength concept as well as the Chatsy room, because really it allows us, while we're doing a show, we are there to be able to answer any questions, as well as be able to watch the show with everybody there, and be able to chat at the same time. It's all one spot. You don't have to go to a number of different places. It's just one spot where you can watch the show, chat, and have a good time.
And sharing music is a great way to get to meet somebody, get to learn something about somebody. People were sharing inspirational music. They were sharing music of fond memories they have. Plus fun music. But it's a way of sharing a little bit of yourself with somebody else through music. And
yeah, I even put in a couple of videos with Tim Conway. It was Tim Conway's birthday, so hey, we threw it in there and we laughed. You know what I mean? So laughter is a great way of being able to just enjoy yourself and celebrate, the time that you can spend together. Other than that, I think that we're going to get right back onto chronic illness. We're going to do Lyme disease on the 30th. We're going to do fibromyalgia, and then we're going to do a couple other things, and then we're going to jump into a different realm of things that we have planned. So, stay tuned with us, because we got a lot of things coming up.
But in the meantime, we'll see you in Chatsy.
See you in Chatsy, folks. Have a great night.
The sweetest moment
So now there's no mic.
I ever knew was when I opened my eyes and saw that you were my truth.
I've disconnected the mics.
Said, how did
They can't even accidentally come on.
How did you know be my angel when your wings were trapped into my heart? Where did you see? And where did you see that we would be wonderful? And our dreams would live where we are. How did you know that you'd be my angel? trapped into my heart. Where did you see that we would be wonderful and our dreams would live where we are? How did you know that you'd be my angel when your wings were trapped in my heart? Where did you see that we would be wonderful